Hey everybody, this is Alison Dorrant coming to you from my studio in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, with the same welcome introductory message that I tend to use every time I do a video, but I tend to laugh. I kind of have a laugh at myself whenever I try and mix it up, and then I'll want to re-record it, and I'm all about doing unedited videos. So here I am. I also have a painting titled Here I Am. So those of you that have followed me for a while know that one of my mountain paintings, actually, it's the first card that is in my art poetry deck. When I had published this deck, it was just the first card that had appeared. It's not this one because these have been used and they're mixed up. And on that note, though, I think I may as well just zoom in and share this first card with you all, and then we can choose a card. So for those of you that may not be familiar, these are art poetry cards. So 71 cards of my art that's been reproduced into print. So this was all my original artwork that I had chosen words to go with based on the images, the work itself, and also the titles that I had given the work. A lot of these pieces, I would say at least 90%, 85 to 90% of these pieces have already sold. And this was just, this is just a really quick glimpse at what I consider sort of like a handheld deck of comfort. And this was a card deck that I created primarily for myself, just because of, my overthinking at night, kind of replaying my day, and sometimes I would get kind of caught up with events that happened during the day and either dwell on them, or I just couldn't really find comfort in maybe something going on. And so this deck was ultimately something I had initially just decided to create for myself, and now it's published and I'm selling it all over the world, and I'm really grateful to be able to share it with you all. I'm sort of sidetracking, but I don't often talk a whole lot about the background as to why I paint, sort of my artist story, my artist why, and it comes out in little bits throughout my videos. And so if you've been following me for a while, you'll kind of know that. But I did want to share what I have been up to recently. So as I just kind of flip through some of these cards, just know the lighting is not great today. It is, it actually snowed. We had a lot of snow and wet rain, and it's very, very chilly here in Calgary today, very damp. Great time to do a video and stay cozy in my studio. And where am I going with this? I thought I would just kind of do a flip through of these cards, maybe choose a card, do some painting today, but also share what I've been up to. So even though I'm still recovering from being quite sick from a couple weeks ago, I am definitely feeling better. I'm tired, but I feel like some of my best videos, my best artwork comes out of being tired. So this is just, again, I'm just doing a little flip through as I talk here, but I wanted to share with you an artist that I have taken, oh my gosh, such a huge number of her classes. I haven't taken all of them. I know there's a lot of people that have taken all of Wendy Brightbill's classes, but I just wanted to mention Wendy Brightbill because she is an artist that I really admire. I really relate to in her artist why. I relate to her in that she's very prolific in her work. She does the most beautiful mixed media work and hones in on these stunning colors and textures. And she was a kindergarten teacher at one point. It really shows her ability to teach something that she loves and teach with passion. And anyway, so I have taken so many of Wendy Brightbill's technique classes. Wendy Brightbill is out of Colorado, and her classes are absolutely full of amazing, inspirational information, videos on techniques, and she's really an incredible teacher and very good at what she does. So that is why I've kind of continued to take classes from her. And just this past month, I decided to invest in my creativity even more and invest with Wendy by taking a course called Masterpiece Makers 3.0. So I'll link actually a video that I was just watching where she and her studio manager, Sarah Lourenco, were both talking about their backgrounds. Sarah talking about her background on going to art school and then eventually helping support artists market their work and monetize, and discussing with Wendy at the same time sort of Wendy's story and how she got into art and really finding her story kind of woven throughout all the pieces that she does. And again, I'm tired today. I need to keep it simple. But why I wanted to mention actually both Sarah and Wendy is I'm taking fairly intense courses through them now. I've actually partnered I've hired Sarah to do some sort of calls with me just to really be able to help me put into words why I paint, to help me market some of my artwork, and just she's just such a wealth of knowledge. So a shout out to Sarah and also Wendy. This Masterpiece Makers course is so amazing because it runs for, I believe it's like 6 to 8 weeks, and you do a couple Zoom sessions with another, a small community of artists. So I think there's about maybe 35 artists that are participating over this 3.0. This is the third time she's run Masterpiece Makers, and it's not just all about learning how to create a masterpiece, but it's about identifying, what is the definition of a masterpiece. If you were to consider, buying art from somebody or creating something yourself, or maybe you have this thought in your head of wanting to create what you would consider a masterpiece, and how would you define that? And not only does she also review techniques, she reviews sort of how to edit your work. I know when I was first starting out, I really felt like I needed a therapist when I was first starting to paint. Don't get stuck in the details. That's another good one for me to read right now. But it's like, it's just such a beautiful community, and I just wanted to share that I am taking this Masterpiece Makers 3.0 right now. I've met the most incredible other artists from around the world. Like I said, it's a group of around 35 of us, and there's Zooms twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and there's so much content that it's released every Monday. And as I mentioned, like Wendy, I'm very prolific. I have a lot of work. I'm very comfortable finishing what I call my art poetry paintings, kind of my signature style that I'm known for, paintings that are very much in this art poetry deck. But I really love to, I suppose, chase dopamine through my art, and I like to mix it up. I feel like a lot of us as artists probably have a little bit of ADHD, or just that whole chasing dopamine through this passion that we have found, whether it's through the process, through finishing a work, through selling a work, and it's very much a neurochemical drive. And anyways, I really like this course because, yes, I have really found my style, but I'm also trying to hone in on, just kind of like pivoting and finding that passion and just, what I would consider another style. But how do I kind of market it when I feel like this is what I have kind of trained people to know about my art? I don't know if that makes sense. Because I didn't get much sleep last night. I will probably have a good painting session today, but the way I communicate is always a little bit more challenging for me to express. But I think what I'm trying to say is I really admire Wendy Brightbill for the way she teaches her students. She just gives it her all. She provides so much content, so hours and hours of content in each of her classes a lot of her classes are for a lifetime, so you can revisit them. But I would say Wendy has really been a large influence in my style and sort of in the tips and tricks she gives in my art practice. She's really helping me kind of pull out my story about why I paint and how I can communicate that through my art and through how I market my art. And it was through Wendy that I had connected with Sarah Lourenco, and I can see why Wendy has hired her to be her. I'm pretty sure she's she's her studio manager. She's also, I believe, a director at a gallery full-time, and so she's quite incredible and has so much experience. And I've just started working with her, but just really wanted to share that with you all. If you're kind of at the stage where, if you're interested in technique classes, Wendy offers so many. I have taken classes in watercolor, in mixed media, in embroidery, how to add embroidery as texture in art. I haven't really taken too much of her oil-based classes for oil paint, but that's just something else if you're interested in. I highly recommend her classes. So, and I'm not affiliated in any way. I'm not partnering in any way for, to get anything back for this, other than I just feel like it's important to share people that really have influenced you as an artist as they've influenced me. I actually own several of Wendy's pieces. And when I first started painting, I just wanted to fill my walls with artists that I really loved and admired. And it was almost like that vision board of, I hope one day that I'll want to hang my paintings, just like, paintings that speak to me like theirs, like Wendy's. And so I am not on video as frequent this month or next month, just because of, again, the intensive portion of the course. But I'm getting just so much out of it and so much from the beautiful community. So I hope to share a little bit more of that with you all soon. I've really gone through a lot of the cards. This is my painting. So at the very start of the video, when I mentioned Here I Am, the title of this painting, which is usually the very first card in the deck, this is titled Here I Am. And this card says, add color to your world. So I'm hoping that that's just what we're going to do today. Now, we could choose a card just sort of as an intention, maybe for this video. So I think I'm just going to do a really quick flip through. I'll just do a quick shuffle and pick a card at random. And then I thought we could just sort of do just a fun exercise, maybe play with some art supplies today. The cards are a little bit sticky, so although this box was well loved, I think this is a newer card deck. And it always takes a while when you're, flipping through. You kind of want to warm the cards up a little bit. And so this I know is quite new. And this is quite funny. Write down your thoughts and feelings. And I really wanted a reminder to write down how I feel. So instead of just painting, instead of expressing visually how I feel and communicating visually, I want to actually write down how I'm feeling and put words to my emotions, write down everything that's kind of coming to my mind. And it's a challenge for me. So that's why this card is in here, is I need that gentle reminder that some days there's so much that can come from just writing down what's on your mind, and without judgment, just, you can even pick a couple words, or just, it can be, if you're comfortable with writing, it can be, a good story, a good book, a good number of pages. But I just really wanted to have this card in the deck. And this is a really lovely color palette, the greens, the blues, the oranges, and the pinks. And this scribble, this was just a really fun mixed media piece I had done. I believe I had done this piece when I was taking one of Wendy's mixed media courses, and it was done on brown toned paper. But when I wanted to add this as a visual piece of art on one of the cards, I had my printer remove the background and make it white because I did think it was kind of a cool painting. I believe I still have this painting. I'm not sure if I ever did give it a title. It was just sort of play. But the scribble on here, the looseness, I felt a lot of emotion when I was painting it, and that's how I just came to these words: write down your thoughts and feelings. So I'm just gonna pop that back into the box. And I had introduced a really lovely book the last time I did a video, which was last week. And when somehow I was testing out colors as sort of a swatch when I was doing my art poetry painting, my watercolor painting with you all. And then I had gone back to this little piece of what I consider like a scrap piece of paper. This is basically an art journal, a folded journal that I was gonna do. I'm teaching classes coming up here locally, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be great to do some little demos and like give everybody one really large sheet of paper and then fold it up so we could just work on several smaller pieces, you know, test some supplies, thinking of it from more of like an art journaling perspective, which is really how I started painting in the first place, was through art journaling. And anyways, I was just sort of matching the colors from this beautiful book. So this is called Petal, and it's by Adriana Picker. The world of flowers through an artist's eye. And then of course, this is kind of like inspiration through my eyes that I'm hopefully translating to you all through video. So I'm not going to do a huge flip through here, but in case you'd missed it before, just a little glimpse of the beautiful pages. That one just stands out so much with those reds and the greens. Really beautiful. The bearded iris. I find irises just fascinating. All the different varieties and the markings, the patterns, the textures. This is just going to be a short video today, just to kind of find my groove. And I thought what I would do is pick a card from Sarah Renae Clarke's Color Cube deck and just see where it takes us. So this is Color Cube Volume 2, Sarah Renae Clarke. And I'm just gonna randomly grab that first one that I had touched. So here we have, this is one of my favorite colors, coral, and the 3 different variations on it. Chocolate, which is a really interesting one, more of a neutral one that I don't use in my work a whole lot, but I have for sure. Tangerine, that's another beautiful color. I tend to go with some of the brighter oranges and peaches, and so this is more of a dialed down orange, this tangerine, and a really lovely combination here. We've got peach, beautiful blue-gray, and dark teal, which I don't know how the lighting is today. It's quite dark. But sometimes when I'm tired, what I like to do is just grab some supplies that I have on hand and try and kind of match them up with the palette I'm trying to create. Let's just take a peek at this beautiful landscape, sort of cityscape, ocean, ocean walkway. So this is card number 308 from volume 2, because there's 2 big volumes of these color cubes. And I was gifted the color cubes by a wonderful viewer quite some time ago when I had started my channel, and I'm absolutely loving using these for the videos and just, you know, the days I'm really calling on inspiration that's sort of right in front of me at random. So you can see all of those colors were kind of pulled into this landscape: the coral, the chocolate, the tangerine, the peach, the light gray, and the dark teal. It's a really neat combination. So we'll see what we have time for today and sort of what I have the energy for. But what I want to do is, if you have, you know, just a piece of watercolor paper or mixed media paper, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I believe this is 98 pounds, so it's a bit of a lighter weight paper. It's by Canson XL mixed media paper. So again, 98 pounds, not super heavy, but it was, I think, 18 by 24 inches, and I had folded it up to make this small little book. And I really like to kind of document my color palettes, and I really should date this today. And it's quite fun to kind of look back and remind myself, oh yes, this was from a YouTube video that I did on this date, and I was really inspired by, you know, the book Petal, and this is the painting I had created on that date. And it's just kind of neat to go back and see what you remember about it and what you don't. So I'm just going to open this up, and I see I already have almost like a peach coral already in here. That could be a beautiful flower. This was just painting paint that I'd smushed together, so acrylic paint. I had just gone like this, and I got that gorgeous pattern, and this would make the most beautiful inside of a flower. And so part of me wants to really outline it, but I think I'll try and stay focused today and see if I can pull out some supplies, some of my favorite supplies with these colors. So with coral, this one comes to mind. I love these Stabilo woodies. These are wonderful wooden crayons. They're very chunky and they're water soluble. I love them in my work. And so just kind of showing you the beautiful pigment you can get. And these are crayons that my son and I share. So I have them in this container, and some of them come as sort of the striped crayon, the 2-in-1, which is neat, but those I bought more for him. And but I can already see that a lot of the colors that are in this palette are in my Stabilo woodies. So they're called Stabilo, Stabilo woody. So Woody. And again, water soluble. So if you're feeling kind of tired, but you really want to create something, this is a fun way to just play with some supplies, or, you know, maybe try and mix up some supplies like some watercolor or acrylic paint and just experiment, seeing if you can kind of get to these colors. The tangerine might be a little bit trickier to find in my Stabilo woody. Just gonna see, I do have this chocolate, the dark brown, and do I have the blue gray or the dark teal? I don't. So with those ones, I will look for a watercolor. I'm gonna look for tangerine in my paint sets. Let me just see what I have. might be, so if you have orange, that's okay, right? It's sort of burnt orange. I almost feel like this one is pretty close. So this is from Beam Paints, and it is called Pumpkin. And you can see it's quite close to this second one over here on the palette. So I'm just gonna wet it, this paint stone, which is in like a beeswax wrapped canvas. So this is a Canadian company from Manitoulin Island, and it's family run, woman owned, Indigenous owned, and this is a canvas wrapped paint stone. And just check out that beautiful pigment. It's really gorgeous. So I'm gonna keep that handy, as well as my brown Stabilo Woody. So I have the coral, the chocolate, the tangerine, and the peach. And now I'm looking for a blue-gray and a dark teal. So I'm just going to get a paper towel handy. And just bring my water over and get a blue-gray, which this is pretty close. If I added a bit more white, let me just see if I have another one. Yeah, I could add, this white actually has a bit of blue mixed in, but I'm gonna see how this ice color from Beam Paints, how that turns out. And I just contaminated it a little bit with the tangerine, with the pumpkin, but that's okay. Yes, I definitely contaminated it. So we'll go back in, and you know, the key is, are you enjoying the process? So right now I am loving this process. I feel like this is something I could do all day, and I'm very spoiled. I have a lot of supplies, so it does make it easy when you have a lot of supplies to kind of play with. But you know, even if you had just a full set of crayons, pencil crayons, a cheap watercolor set, you can actually, you know, pretty easily find a book on color mixing or Google these colors and figure out kind of how to get close to them. I decided that this was light enough. I didn't want to add white, but I might mix in a different shade of blue. Let's just see. You know, I actually feel like this color, Cloud, might be closer. I'm wearing my fleecy today because it's cold out. You know, when you're tired, you get cold more easily. So, and my body is still recovering from being quite sick. So let's just see what this cloud looks like. That's definitely more of that blue-gray color. I almost feel like I could mix those two and get fairly close. And we all see color differently, but that's close enough for me for the purpose of what I'm up to. So I'll just, I could even add, I'm kind of new to color mixing. I could add the tiniest bit of turquoise. Let's just see. Or maybe I won't. I think I'm quite happy with that. And then for dark teal, this one, which is sky blue, let's just see where it fits. Maybe it fits more up here. Oh, definitely. So this actually, especially combined with Cloud, makes more of a blue-gray. So I think I'll probably just go over top like that. And then I'm gonna find a darker teal. So we have 6 colors there. I'm just gonna clean up my paper underneath here a bit. And then the dark teal, I'm gonna see if I have a Neocolor crayon. I think I have a good one that color. Or I suppose a water-soluble pencil crayon. Let's just see. So this one is, this is well loved. This is a permanent, so a non-water soluble wax crayon by Neocolor Caran d'Ache. It's a little bit, I think this dark teal, it's darker than that. So this one's not quite what I wanted. I'm gonna just see, this one's probably very much, yeah, the same. So I'm gonna pick, let me find a different one. It's definitely a harder color, so I'm gonna look in my selection. This is still not quite the same. Okay, that is too funny. I'm gonna, this is fun because I get to try and find or make a dark teal. What I think I'm gonna do is, let me see here. I've gotta have that color. I could imagine having so many supplies. This is a challenge for me. It's got to be a big challenge for you. I think what I'm going to do is use my Super Color Too Soft water-soluble crayon in malachite green, and I'm going to mix it with darker, just trying to think, not a black, I don't think, maybe, I don't know, I could be bold, add a little bit of black in there, and then wet it because of it being water soluble. You can see where the wax crayon that's not water soluble, the Neocolor one, didn't become watercolor there. Just gonna add in more of the black and see if I can get that darker teal. Okay, wow, that is super challenging. Let's just try again. I'm gonna use maybe okay, this is really challenging. Here are we with my watercolors. Okay, I think I might just have to go with creating my own. So a dark teal. I suppose the other thing, if I could think out of the box, would be dark teal, like any kind of collage papers I might have, or washi tape, something I could add into my work that has that darker teal. This is more of a dark bluish gray. Let's just see if I have that one. I suppose this dark gray, maybe mixed with this malachite green, maybe that would be a little bit closer. That's pretty good. I think I just would need to darken it a bit. That's pretty good with that one there. So I think I'll play around with those ones and maybe see if we can do like a little art poetry painting. So I'm just gonna set this aside. Just gonna clean off my space. And I'm gonna grab, now this is Canson Mixed Media 9 by 12 inches, 113 pounds. So it's not quite as heavy as I'd like. You can see I do a lot of cleaning off my brush with acrylic paints. There's a little art poetry painting I had done on video, some notes, cleaning off my brush, making new backgrounds. So I'm going to open to a fresh page, and I think what we could do, it might be kind of fun to start with these two colors to get that dark teal, maybe in the middle of an art poetry painting. And I'm just gonna see how this is gonna work. So this is experimental. I'm just gonna really kind of loosely do a flower. So I'm just squinting my eyes, pushing fairly hard, and getting a mixture of the malachite green and the Supercolor Too Soft dark gray. Number 007 is the dark gray, number 180 is the malachite. And I'm going to eventually wet that to kind of blend it together. And I can always go back in and kind of add more of one color if needed. Just really loose. And then in my painting, I also want to incorporate the other colors. And what I could do is incorporate the cloud and the sky blue as I'm kind of blending this. So just so you can kind of see what those two look like mixed. I might just do a little bit, maybe I'll do a little bit here. Just kind of almost like clouds, maybe a little bit over here. And that is a really beautiful blue-gray. Gosh, it's so dark in here. What I want to do now is use my chocolate, this sort of neutral color. And what I could do is just almost make maybe a stem. And I'm pushing down fairly hard. So because I don't want to use brown watercolor, I just want to play. I'm just going to create a composition that I feel like might be kind of interesting. So for those of you that like to follow the rule of thirds, you know, finding more of a focal point in 1/3, if you divide your page or your artwork into columns, 3 columns and 3 down, finding those focal points at each point where they cross. Now, that was not a great way of explaining it. You'd have to take one of Wendy's classes if you really want to learn about design elements. We're learning about that in Masterpiece Makers, which is so fun. And now I'm going to be really brave. And I'm going to wet my number 12 round watercolor brush. And I'm just going to start with this darker, the brown, and not activating all of it, but just some of it. And maybe before I let the brown kind of blend, I'm going to clean off my brush and then just activate, see if I can get some of the dark teal. I used quite a bit of water there. And just sort of seeing what I can get in this sort of abstract flower. Still very much turquoise, but that's okay. It's just sort of experimental, and this card is just to kind of guide us and get us to think a bit outside the box. So I'm going to just dab up a little bit so you can see my line work underneath. And I'm going to go to my pumpkin. Ooh, excuse me. I think spring allergies are also coming. So I'm going to add in a little bit of this pumpkin, kind of touching the brown and up into the blue so it blends a little bit. And maybe also just bringing it through here. Wetting my brush and what I could do as well is add a bit more coral in here, adding the coral at this point, and seeing if I can get you to see a little bit more of the painting. And deciding, do I want to add the coral with line work or with watercolor? And just kind of thinking, how do I want to add it in? I really like both of these colors. I might add in some of this kind of down here, and maybe a little bit up here, and just turn it into watercolor, and maybe just add a little bit of a peach loosely in here. So I'm going to bring in that coral. You can see that the Stabilo woody, if it's on a certain type of paper, you can still kind of find the markings. You can see the texture of the crayon, which I'm not a huge fan of. Sometimes it works. I do like to kind of blend it out. And you can see blending this peach with the blue, I am getting a bit of a neutral brown again. And just letting things blend. Trying not to judge what you're doing, but just checking in, seeing how are you feeling as you're painting. And I feel like I would wait for this to dry and maybe add more of that coral, the different hues of coral, the variation in the value of the color. Maybe writing a word on here. And just really trying to feel how does this color palette make you feel? So if we go back to writing down our thoughts and feelings, actually it's really interesting. I just kind of put this together now. I'm going to move that for a second, that painting. But isn't that interesting that I can see some of the colors from this color card? I can see the coral, a very bright coral in the center of these abstract flowers, and more of a pink, but you know, just the variation of the oranges, the corals, not so, a little bit of brown, not too much, but there's a little bit of brown kind of in the background. And I did paint this on brown tone paper, which is interesting. There might be the tiniest bit of tangerine in here. Peach, definitely blue-gray up in here. And the dark teal, it's quite dark, but I feel like that is kind of mixed in through here. And so I just find that quite interesting. So I'm gonna go back to this. And I kind of like how there's that really orange coral in the center of the abstract flower. So I might just do that with this one. And again, just, you know, trying to use this as an exercise in relaxation and experimentation. And maybe you want to add in a little bit more of the dark brown somewhere, or expand on the branch a little bit through the wet watercolor, just seeing how it feels to go through that wet area. And just deciding whether or not you like it. And kind of looking at what colors are you enjoying most, and is there one that you could add back in. I almost want to add in this light peach, but I feel like I want to add it in without that mark making and just as watercolor. So I'm going to wet the end of this crayon and just see if I can pick up some of that color. Add a bit of water to my paper. And I can get very subtle peach color. And my water was a little bit dirty, but that's okay. Kind of adding in maybe some little lines. Getting a feel for kind of this chunky Stabilo woody. Maybe adding a little bit of this pumpkin, kind of that tangerine color in the middle. And maybe adding a little bit more of the orange that's on my brush. Just kind of in and around, kind of blending out some of those marks. And so this would be a really great art journal page. It's not something that I would call a final painting. It was just an exercise in enjoying the process of, you know, choosing a color palette that you may not typically work with. Just trying to find that dark teal was a very interesting exercise for me. I almost wonder if it was a different day, if it would have been easier to find or even harder to find. I know that I could look up how to make it. Maybe that's something I will do because it's not readily available in my watercolors. And I could always, again, find it in like acrylic paint, going over top of this with maybe some paint. I don't know if I have acrylic paints handy. Let's just see. I'm gonna just see if I can find that in my paint stash. So these are a couple that I could come up with. This is the blue-gray in Liquitex Basics, the acrylic paint, which very much fits in with that first square there. And then this is quite a bright blue. It's aqua blue by Holbein, but with a little white and maybe mixed in with the blue gray, it will kind of dial down a bit. So, you know, if you wanted to just experiment with mixed media, you know, if you have a blue that you kind of want to add in, I'm just going to use my round mixed media brush. This is by Princeton. I just purchased this here at Michael's Canada. And I'm just going to grab some of the Holbein aqua blue, which is sort of like a light sky blue. I got my paintbrush wet, and I'm just going to add a little bit of texture. I like the blooming up here, but maybe I'll just add a little bit of texture and depth in this area just to add some interest. And then also down in this area here. And then I'm not going to clean my brush because these blues will really complement each other. Sorry you guys can't see this whole page very easily. Hopefully you can zero in on the elements I'm working on. And again, it's just inspiration, but not kind of teaching you how to do a whole painting. I almost want to bring out some of the dark teal where I was trying to achieve it in this abstract flower here. So I'm going to leave some of the blooms from the watercolor that I like, and I might just bring in some of that color. And because this area is still wet, I actually quite like how the paint's going on. And that's just part of enjoying the process too, is, you know, if you've never used acrylic paint in your watercolor work before, you don't have to wait for the watercolor to dry underneath to play around. And kind of see some abstract petals in the back. If you really want to learn how to do beautiful floral bouquets, Wendy Brightbill is the artist that would be wonderful to follow. She really does the most beautiful abstract bouquets. And if I had a pen, I could etch in and just create some texture. I see I could take this pen lid off and just maybe etch in and just kind of, you can see some of those underlayers just for interest. And I'm really just kind of loosely going into the paint. Oops. And then since I was going to write down my thoughts and feelings, just looking at this, I'm just going to clean my brush before I damage it more. Okay, my voice actually sounds tired today, so I look forward to a really good sleep tonight. My little rescue dog had to go out around 2 in the morning, and when duty calls, and so I let him out, and I was so deeply asleep, but then when I got back to bed, I really had a hard time turning off my mind. And sometimes it's just like that. So I'm just going to take you to the bottom of this page and think about what words are coming to my mind. So when I'm seeing these blues, immediately I'm thinking of calm. And calm is one of the reasons why I paint, why I create. I see calm, I feel peaceful. And I'm not worried about my handwriting. I have an essential tremor and it's a little bit shaky, especially when I haven't slept, but it just gives it character. So calm, peaceful. I actually feel the ocean. I see, you know, the ocean, kind of the beautiful skies, ocean water, the different variations in colors and depth. I see, this seems three-dimensional to me. I see depth. I actually would write down the word depth. When I was creating my art poetry deck, I would paint the painting. Well, a lot of the paintings were already painted, but when I had the idea to bring a cohesive body of work together, and then there's a few paintings I did specifically for the deck, and actually one of them, there's a couple here. As you can see, this was one of the cards from the deck, and this is the original I had done on 140-pound watercolor paper. So that's sort of an up close. And I had just written words as just kind of notes along the side. So I had abundance, lush, thrive. I had nature, forest, trees, sweet spot, something shine, stand out. So I didn't overthink it. I just wrote down words along the edge. And if we were to flip through and find that card, I think I had written find green spaces and explore them. It is kind of neat though to see the actual original. There it is. Nope, this one, grow in nature. So this is how the original art here translated to 350 gram cardstock. So, you know, in the printing process, you lose a lot of the metallics, you lose a lot of the depth, the blooms. In watercolor, you lose a lot of the transparency, but I still think it turned out really quite well. You can still see some of the neon jelly roll pen, that pink I had used just as the pops of color. Very rarely do I paint with such a monochrome, well, not really monochrome, but mostly greens, analogous colors, just, you know, different hues of greens. Very rarely do I paint a painting like this. And so that was a challenge. And I see that nature was a word that I had chosen on here, and I put the word grow in nature. So not only grow in nature, growing up in an environment where we're exposing ourselves to lush greenery, forests, trees, you know, abundance, so much beauty, but also growing in nature as a person through art, through creativity. That's sort of what was going through my mind when I thought about this card. And then I can show you another one. This is one that didn't make the cut. And how did I sign it? That's so funny. It's from my art journal. And it's such an interesting color palette. Beautiful metallics. There's that gorgeous, oh, you know what? Wow, check that out. If we took out that bright pink, you can just see you can actually see some of the dark teal, the blue-gray, the peach, the coral, and I would say bronze, not so much chocolate, but that's kind of neat that without that bright neon, we've kind of pulled in some of the palette with the addition of black and gold. This painting is another one that I had actually sold it to somebody, but then they came over, they saw it, and they're like, oh, I just love it so much. Is there any way to blow it up? And she ended up buying a very large canvas print of this painting, and this is titled It's the Silver Lining, because this is only 5 by 8 inches, and you can just see the shimmer of that silver. It was, again, a silver jelly roll pen, and you can just see that shimmer down. I don't know if it will catch the light, but I saw the shimmer of the silver lining, and then that, it turned out to be a really lovely painting. See if I can find that one, that card. So on the card I had said, find the silver lining. And it made me kind of feel like I was saying, find the silver lining, not just in life, but in my artwork. And again, it didn't translate quite as well onto cardstock in print, but it's kind of cool that you can see it. It's so funny. Sometimes the card, if I'm looking for a card, it will pop right out of me. But I think it's kind of fun to see a side-by-side comparison. And some of my originals were really big. They were on canvas or huge paper. This was on an 18 by 24 inch piece of watercolor paper. A lot of them were, this again was really large. That was a very large painting. And that's so funny. Where is it? So you're getting a really good glimpse at my deck. Oh, and there's my timer. Just gonna turn off my timer. That's too funny. I'm gonna find the silver lining of not being able to find the art poetry card that says it's the silver lining. And hopefully you all are just feeling engaged in what you're doing, or relaxed if I'm trying to put you to sleep, or this is so funny. I swear it's like the last. Oh, there it is. Not quite the last one, but. And so again, here's the art poetry card, Find the Silver Lining. And here's the original. There's that silver shining in the bottom right corner. And just looking at this card, this whole area is sort of like a brighter version of those lovely tangerines. And I would say that's a really nice turquoise blue-gray. Or maybe I'm just really trying to see it right now because that's what I'm seeing on this card. Okay, so hopefully whatever you have going on, you can find the silver lining within your day if you're feeling like there's some stuff going on in your life. We all seem to have things going on. Life can be heavy at times. And I'm just going to leave you with this painting that's drying here, and leave you with the words calm and peaceful, depth and ocean. And I see the word soft, and maybe tranquil. And I love the word play, create. And so I'm going to link both Wendy Brightbill and Sarah Lourenco in the description of the video. Like I said, I am right in the thick of it, taking Masterpiece Makers 3.0, which has been just an incredible experience. It's not just for beginner artists, intermediate artists, it can be for more advanced artists. She really tailors it to meet your individual needs, and it's just the most interactive group. I've done a lot of art groups, and Wendy's extremely generous with her time and her energy. She really gets to know you as a person and an artist, and it's really hard to find that these days in offerings from artists that do the online teaching. At least I have found you often don't get to really interact on the Zoom calls, but Wendy makes it in a way that you can interact with the other artists, and it's a really lovely community type feel. And again, it's an investment into your creativity, into your process, but I feel like she just does not disappoint. And Sarah Lourenco I've started working with, and I'm already sold after just a couple of quick chats with her. She's wonderful. She's just provided a lot of insights into my, how I work as an artist, and sort of what she can view as an observer of someone that's, maybe has a hard time of putting their words and art together, but as, you know, about my art. Okay, and I'm totally, I'm gonna fall asleep soon. So I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day or night, wherever you are. And thank you so much for being here with me. Take care.